What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? After more than 150 conversations with executives from companies like Disney, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, I've learned that sports is a common denominator. Some of our guests' athletic experiences earned them a place in their sports hall of fame, like Chick-fil-A chairman Dan Cathy. Some hung up their cleats after high school, like Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian, while others, like Condoleezza Rice, claim they weren't that great in their sport. But no matter their skill level, they have all told me that being a part of a team taught them leadership lessons that they still use today. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, I'm your host, Don Yeager, here to give you an all-access pass to genuine, authentic, fireside chat-like conversations with today's business icons so that you can create powerful change in your organization. This is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is Brian Peterson. Brian serves as the President of Accumulation and Retirement Income Distribution for AmeriLife. But prior to his role at AmeriLife, Brian was President and CEO of TruChoice Financial Group, where he was the architect behind its construction. I'm excited to dive into the lessons he learned playing baseball and basketball and even coaching hoops at the collegiate level, and how he applies those lessons to his leadership today. Make sure to check out corporatecompetitorpodcast.com/notes for my notes from today's session. You'll find the best quotes and a reflection question that will help you integrate today's insights.
Be that servant leader. When you give more than you're asking in return, you actually get more in return. It's making sure you have the right leaders. You have to have the folks that have the same thought process as you do around being a servant leader and caring about their employees. If folks have to leave to go to a kid's game, go do that, because I know you're going to get your work done. Take care of your family, take care of your personal situation. Work will be there, work will get done, we'll all be fine.
Brian, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Don. Appreciate you having me on today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Well, I'm counting on learning lots from you, so no pressure. So I know when I was studying AmeriLife and preparing for today that you all have some very specific culture words: integrity, courage, accountability, excellence. I know a lot of organizations have tactics, ways that you go about inspiring your team to live to those words. Is there anything specific that you are doing, that the team is doing, to try to draw those words from those that you get a chance to serve?
I probably talk out of both sides of my mouth when I talk about culture, because it is the most important aspect to a great company, but it's probably the most overused catchphrase in business.
So true.
As I built TruChoice a few years back, we would spend once a month as a leadership team talking about culture and how to bring all the employees in together and engage them to be part of one team and one company. So words like courage, and we talk about the ability to stand up and say what you think is right. It starts with empowerment. It starts with asking for opinions from folks. It starts with not being afraid as a leader to get different opinions and thoughts from different employees. The minute that you stop asking for those thoughts and opinions from employees, the courage they have goes away very quickly. It's a daily conversation. It's a daily process. You need to continue to ask people their opinions and thoughts. And when you ask for them, you should expect to get them, and you should be happy and excited as a leader to receive those opinions and thoughts.
I love that. As a leader, you have to jump in. You have to actually let the world know that safety is, in fact, real.
Yes.
By asking for opinions and not belittling someone if they bring you one that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Yes.
How do you celebrate teammates that live out the core values?
We use a program called Motivosity. Think about it as Facebook and Instagram for the business world. It's like a social media board. Everybody in the company is on Motivosity. We give every employee some nominal dollars on a quarterly basis to be able to thank other employees for going above and beyond on a daily basis. So somebody could say, Don did a great job yesterday. Here's $5 in there. Maybe they have 25 or $50 a quarter. And then somebody can actually jump on and boost it and add another $5 or $10. And so all of a sudden, somebody has enough money for a lunch or a coffee or whatever they might have. And it basically shows up on your computer that Brian has just talked about Don's help and support for a customer. And people can jump on and say, yeah, Don did a great thing yesterday for me as well. You don't even need to do the nominal dollars. You can just promote somebody, and leaders, managers, they jump on. And it's probably been the biggest thing that we did. It builds this community of folks sharing best practices and making sure that everybody's aware of some of the things that people have done that goes above and beyond on a daily basis.
That's so powerful. You spent 17 years at Allianz, 6 years as CEO of TruChoice, and recently AmeriLife acquired TruChoice. So there's been a lot of moving pieces in your career. You're even taking a larger role within AmeriLife. When you, as a leader, are transitioning to something new, once you set your cup of coffee down on the new desk, what's the first thing you're doing to try to make sure that people know what's going to come, what's going to be expected, how things are going to go? How does Brian come to a new role and make his way in?
So, like merging, when you are coming into a new business or a new company, I think you have to merge. I don't think it's everybody else's job to make sure that you merge. I think it's your job to merge. Think about jumping on a freeway. It's pretty busy. Nobody on that freeway cares that you're merging in. They're going to go their speed. As you're coming onto the freeway, you've got to either speed up, slow down. Maybe the same speed is fine. You really don't know until you get to the freeway as to how fast you need to go to merge. Just read the room.
Yeah.
Every day it can be a different speed, and it can be different by the individual that you're working with that day. It can be different by the leader. It can be different by the employees that work for you. I mean, you learn that coaching a little bit. You learn to make adjustments at halftime. As you come into a new business, a new company, you got to make adjustments all along the way, every day. And the minute you stop, you run into a wall. See what's going on around you, determine your speed, and you have to find a way to merge with the rest of the employees in the company that you're coming in with. Don't figure out the speed before you get to the freeway.
Wow. So I know you played baseball and basketball growing up. Tell me about those sports. Was there a moment on the court or field that you still think of today? Like some moment that happened on your sporting journey that you still think, well, that was really cool.
I loved pitching. I loved to be on the mound thinking about, hey, if I do my job, this batter has no chance to get on base. I don't even want to allow the rest of the team to have to play defense. And obviously they did many times. I would argue I was a better coach than an athlete, but yeah, just love that one-on-one with the batter every single time. And I couldn't wait until that next game just to be on the pitcher's mound. And Don, I would tell you, I think it hurt me a little bit in business though. As much as I loved one-on-one with the batter, I always thought like, hey, if I just do it myself, it's going to get done right. That was probably the hardest skill set for me to learn as a leader, is to allow, to empower others, because I was used to just always doing it on my own.
Right.
One of my bosses back in the day at Allianz had to sit me down and explain that you couldn't work 24/7. You had to utilize the team around you. You had to start to trust them. And it took a while. You'd start to trust a few things and then pull back. And I know today, empowerment is not only a great part of a great culture that you build, but it's also the sign of a great leader.
Was there a coach on your journey, someone that leaned into you that made a difference and maybe even taught you a lesson that you still think of today?
Two come to mind. The first one would be my dad. My dad coached me throughout my youth sports. He taught me a lot of things, but the one I remember is when you get on that field or that court, you're not going to be able to be on there forever. So leave everything you have. Hard work means everything. I take that into the business world today. I'm going to outwork folks. I'm going to work hard. If I made a mistake on the field or on the court, it wasn't because I didn't give 110%. Second would be probably my high school basketball coach, Mark Klingsporn. Don, when I played for him, I did not like him. He was always in my grill, always pushing me to be better. No matter what I did, he wanted more. I know today why he did that.
He saw something in you.
Yeah, he knew I had more left. And I didn't know that I had more left, but he always knew I had more left. So I probably would have found those things on my own without him just continually to push me.
Did you ever go back to Coach Mark and express that you learned that lesson?
I don't think I have. I'm going to put it on my list, though. I'm going to put on my list. He's actually still coaching high school basketball in Minnesota.
Is he really?
Yeah, he is. He is. I had a chance to go watch their game, but I haven't done that. I will put that on my list.
Isn't it funny how sometimes you have those folks, they have that influence, but at the time you're driven crazy by the way that they treated you. And then one day, like it all sort of clicks.
Yeah.
How has that played into your leadership in the world of business?
I tell the team a lot, communicate, communicate, communicate.
Mhm.
And when you think you've communicated enough, communicate one more time. Communicate as to the why.
I love that. I know you did some volunteer coaching for Woodbury Athletic Association. Is there a story you can share from that window? Something that you learned trying to lead others, especially young ones, that has played a role in the way that you've grown to lead today?
So Woodbury was where my kids played sports growing up.
Ah,
I wanted to make sure I coached my son and my two daughters in either basketball and or baseball. And my dad never missed a game.
mhm.
He was always there. And I wanted to be able to, even though I traveled and even though I was on the road a lot, I wanted to make sure I made my kids sports. The most important thing is to coach them and be able to be at their games. I push my kids harder than the rest of the kids.
You push your kids harder than the rest?
Yeah, probably. They would probably say that, but that was always part of the deal. You wanted to make sure that the rest of the kids, the parents didn't think you had played favorites for your children.
Which is one of the most difficult things about coaching your son or daughter.
Yeah. I can see myself on the court watching my son, probably sixth or seventh grade. He makes a 3-pointer. And as he's coming back, he does the 3-point sign and blows into his hand like he probably watched some of the NBA players.
Yes.
I literally was on the court and I almost grabbed his jersey and yanked him off the court and told him to act like he's been there before. I still remember that part. We still talk about that today.
So true. There is so much showboating that goes on in so many places. I watched an NBA game in which, in the early part of the game, there were 2 technical fouls called because players were trying to belittle or stare down or make fun of an opponent, and the referees just weren't having any bit of it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's this cool factor that comes with that showboating. When you did that with your own son, I'm going to guess that set a bar for all the rest of the players as well.
Yeah, definitely. We had to wait for the next time out to get my son off the court and to explain to him we don't do that. I think it set a stage for everybody to say, hey, let's act like we've been here before. Let's enjoy it, but let's not put it in the rest of the other team's faces.
Yeah. So you coached high school basketball
I did.
and a couple of years on the collegiate level as an assistant coach at Concordia, St. Paul. So tell me, how did what you learned there make you the coach and leader that you are today?
The knowledge of needing more folks on your team that do multiple things well versus just everybody that does the same thing well. Don, you're a big basketball fan as well. You can't have 5 offensive players. You need somebody that's going to rebound. Dennis Rodman made a career out of rebounding.
Chasing the ball with ferocity.
Yes, yes. He did that really well. You have a defensive specialist. You have people that really like to pass the ball, and you have your offensive player. So you have kind of a diversity of talent and skill sets on the court. I want people that think differently than I do. If they all think like I do, I don't think we're going to be very good. We're not going to be very successful. Sure, we'll have a lot of fun outside of work. So when I put a team together, I really want to make sure that, number one, they aren't afraid to have courage to speak up and tell me what they're thinking. Number 2 is I want to make sure they think differently than everybody else on the team and differently than me.
Yeah.
In today's world, a lot of the folks you bring on your team are people you get to know over time. Not all the time are they people that you've just met for the first time in the interview process. So your network is big.
Mhm.
There are people that you knew 10 years ago, and it's like, hey, if they ever are open, man, I would love to have that person on my team. If you're looking at their resume, their background, somebody that might have an accounting background or a legal background or where they grew up can be different. You've got Midwest, you've got East Coast, you've got West Coast, you've got folks that have maybe lived in different parts of the world. I like to allow the interview process to kind of take its own course, but I do like to know where people have lived. I like to know how they've grown up. I like to know about their high school and their whereabouts and what made them who they are today. Because you can learn a lot from folks. I mean, we've had this conversation and we've talked about my dad and just those types of things. Those things can tell you a lot about people.
Yeah. All of that plays into building the right culture. What can you teach us about building culture?
When we brought TruChoice together, basically we had 5 different companies from different parts of the country. We had California, Florida, Georgia, Minnesota, Michigan. And they were all companies that were owned at the time by Allianz Life.
Mm-hmm. And you were bringing those 5 different companies with their own independent cultures together.
Correct. And we were going to do this virtually. The business was changing so fast that to be able to get to that next level, we really needed to spend time on building and growing and investing in our future, because what got us to where we were today wasn't going to get us to where we wanted to be tomorrow. Now we have 200 employees, so we had a decent sized company at the time. I wouldn't sit here today and tell you this was easy. Culture, the types of business, I mean, they were very different.
Mm-hmm.
Some folks didn't want to be part of what we were trying to build, and we had to move on from very talented people and get people on the bus that wanted to be part of what we were building. And after we were spending every month as a leadership team talking about culture and engagement, we decided we had to kind of supercharge this a little bit and make sure that somebody was thinking about it every single day when they woke up.
Mm-hmm.
We took one of our employees that we knew would be really good at this and made them the culture and engagement specialist. Her job was to make sure that we were doing monthly bingo, monthly trivia. We were doing happy hours in the areas of which the companies used to be a standalone company. Maybe when business was really good, we'd have a half day Friday. TruChoice started in October, and October became birthday month. So her job was to continue to figure out ways to engage. And the last 2 years, TruChoice has been certified a great place to work by our employees that have been surveyed. It makes you feel pretty good that the things you've done has really turned into something special.
This was work. It was intentional.
Yes.
It wasn't left to chance. It wasn't, well, let's hope that everybody gets the message. It was, let's go make it happen.
100%. Culture doesn't just happen.
Well, it can just happen, but it's seldom good when it does.
Fair enough. Good point. So we really did put a lot of effort and work into making sure that it was something that was core to who we were and where we were going and what we wanted to be. It was something we thought about every single day. Even with a company of 200 folks, to take one individual and move them into culture full time, that's a big investment. And I'm sure 20 employee companies have a hard time putting that investment in. I think you'll get back 4 times what you put in by really thinking about culture and engagement on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's a big one. Many people refer to their corporate organizations as teams. As you and I both know, often they're actually just a group of people that happen to carry the same business card. They're not really a team. They just happen to work together. If you're trying to coach us on how to take a group of disparate individuals and turn them into a team, what are some of the things we should look for, some of the things we should do to try to draw this group of 10 and turn them into something?
As a leader, I think the number one thing you do is you have to have an open door. Number 2 is you have to be a servant leader. I've always tried to keep an open door, try to be there, whether it's an emotional support, whether it's a personal support, whether it's business support, to be that servant leader. When you give more than you're asking in return, you actually get more in return. Sacrifice. You want to see people that are willing to sacrifice for others. You know that that's somebody that's going to be a major part of building the team.
Yeah.
It's making sure you have the right leaders. You have to have the folks that have the same thought process as you do around being a servant leader and caring about their employees.
Mm-hmm.
If one of those individuals isn't on that same page, you're going to have a group of employees that aren't going to follow that same thought process. And so you have to make sure all of your leaders care about their employees, they take their time. I'm a pretty big believer that 8 to 5 is kind of gone. If folks have to leave to go to a kid's game, if folks have to go take care of a parent, go do that. Come back in a couple hours because I know you're going to get your work done.
Mm.
You don't have to be here from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. I get emails from people that are working at 11 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
Take care of your family, take care of your personal situation. Work will be there, work will get done. We'll all be fine.
Awesome. I love that. One question we have asked a lot of folks is around momentum. For those of us who love sports, you feel like you could see it, but you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah.
There's a spark, there's a moment, there's something that happens that as it continues to grow becomes momentum. That spark turns into something if you've prepared for it and you know how to take advantage of it. Has there been a spark in this journey you've had at AmeriLife and in your work at TruChoice? Has there been something that's happened that you've been able to build upon that has generated for you what you believe to be momentum?
I would probably say the people around me.
Mm.
None of this is me. It's the people that have been around me for all of these years that continue to drive and continue to care and continue to put their blood, sweat, and tears into the business. And like you said, you can't put your finger on it, but man, you can feel it. Once you have it and you lose it, it is so hard to get it back. It might be even easier to get to the top than it is to stay on the top.
Sure.
I got individuals 20, 25 years, 15 years that we've worked together. Man, when you get that camaraderie and that partnership and that teamwork that has been around for so long, it's so important. And even the new folks that join us, they feel that energy that just doesn't happen overnight. So I would always point to the people. I mean,
Mhm.
our business, it's about relationships. Without relationships, we don't have much. Yes, we have product, but everybody's got product. It's about relationships. It's about partnership. It's about teamwork. It's about enjoying the people you work with. When we're hitting on all cylinders and things are going really well, it's usually because we've taken the time out of the day to day to step aside and do something as a group, as a team outside of work. Going to a golf outing. We've got a little game show deal in Minneapolis where you can go be part of bowling. It's really doing the things that have nothing to do with the business
Mhm.
because there's a lot of companies just like us, but there's not a lot of companies just like us. There's a lot of companies that do what we do, but there's not a lot of companies that do what we do.
Boy, that's a really great lesson.
Yep.
Brian, is there some way that our guests can best connect with you? Where can they find, learn more, and stay in touch with you if they wanted to reach out?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn. You can just Google Brian Peterson, AmeriLife. You'll find me. I'll probably jump up at the first one there. And probably the best way to connect with me is through LinkedIn.
Brian Peterson, it was so great to get a chance to meet you at the event in Scottsdale. I am grateful that you joined us today and that you were a corporate competitor.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate the time. Enjoyed it.
I knew from the time I met Brian at his company event that I couldn't wait to have this interview. I knew just watching the way he led and the way others respected his leadership that the conversation today would be filled with lessons. I took three big ones away that I want to share with you. First, I love that entire discussion around when you take on a new role. He compared it to merging on a freeway. It's your job to merge, not theirs. So it's not their job to slow down. It's your job to get to the right speed, to get to their speed. You can't guess as to what the speed of your team is going to be like before you get there. So get there, learn your team. You merge with them. Don't force them to merge with you. Great content. The second was their cultural standards. They have their key lessons within their culture that they try to make sure are taken by all members of the organization. But then they built an internal process to praise employees for living out those cultural values and that they can even award each other. Actually, they've got a little bit of a budget to help reward each other for living out those values. He used a company, he mentioned Motivosity, but whatever it might be for you, find a way that you, as people live out your values, are celebrated. And then when he talked about communicating everything that matters to your team, and he says, communicate, communicate, communicate. When you think you've communicated enough, communicate one more time. It's so important that people understand not just what you're asking them to do, but why it matters. Your responsibility as a leader is to help communicate that at all times. Brian was a gift to me today. I hope he was to you as well. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. Feedback helps us spread the insights of our guests to a wider audience. It actually increases our ratings. Thank you so much for those who have done so in the past. And catch new episodes every Wednesday. Subscribe at corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to be the first to get a chance to listen. And as a thank you gift, I will send you a chapter from one of my best-selling books. Stay connected with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My handle is @DonYaeger, DonYaeger. And until next week, I appreciate you.